like, hey, it's the dawn of van life. I'm bringing to you today Black Opal, former van lifer, now back in the apartment life. So for people who aren't familiar with your YouTube channel, what kind of van did you used to live in?
I used to live in a Dodge Caravan. I first started out in my Honda Civic,
Yeah.
um, and then I got a Dodge Caravan. It was a 2007, I believe. Yeah. So, yeah, that was that was fun. So it wasn't. It was, I believe, smaller than a Honda Odyssey, and the floor wasn't flat.
I have the
Honda.
same problem. In the Sienna, I have the same problem.
Yeah, the Odysseys are pretty flat, and Siennas are kind of flat too. But Dodge Caravans are horrible because the way they made the stow and goes, um, they made it like bumpy. So it's like, so yeah, that gets tricky when it comes to like bed building and things like that. And I didn't think about that. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the tricky part about minivans in general. The thing about like cargo vans, like
Mhm.
some of them have curved sidewalls, but their floors are pretty flat. And just with pulling the seats out, there were those little bumpy areas where like the seats used to be. So like even just putting anything on the floor, like it was an irregular floor in some way, which I think is
Mhm.
one of the challenging thing about minivans. But of course they're cheaper
Oh
than
yeah. Oh
the other
yeah. They're
options,
easier to get.
which is
Mhm.
good when you're not like, you're
Also,
in bankroll like
hard
that.
out.
Yeah.
And they're made for travel, so that's the good thing too. So you'll have those little things like they'll have extra USB spots. They'll have like little things that will help you. My van, which was really cool, I had in the back, I had at like the no, not sorry, that was I think that was Mia's van. She had like an extra portal. But my van, I can like plug in things into my van when it's off and it would still like work. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I could use my chargers and the whatever to charge or the USB portal when the van was off. So that was super helpful. I don't know if most vans have that, but I know my van did.
Yeah.
And I did that all the time. So I would charge my phone while I was sleeping. Like I would, but of course you can't do like huge things, but I would do a lot of things that way. I would plug my inverter in sometimes. And that was super useful because it's not like you spend all day in the van. So sometimes you need to charge yourself, just like if you're in a sticks and bricks and you charge your phone while you're sleeping or something like that. So that
Yeah.
was helpful.
Yeah, I have two like inverter plugs, like standard house plugs in my van, but they don't work when the van is off. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still great because that was how I charged my power bank, is I just had it plugged into that. So every time I drove, my power bank got charged. And that way when the car was off, I could use the
Mm-hmm.
power bank to charge my other, and that was before I installed my solar system. Now I have solar. Um, but before I did, like for most of the time, because I didn't get solar until October, and I've had that van over a year at this point. So
Got
yeah,
solar. You got solar from the van build
no,
or the
I
RTO?
bought I bought my panel, I bought some batteries, and eventually I bought the rest of the stuff, and then I figured out how to put it all together.
Oh, you did it yourself?
Yeah, I did it myself. I
Oh,
installed my own solar. I have 200 amp hour AGMs.
that's cool. I if I had solar, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And have solar. But I feel like the vans that do have the like house plugs are the ones that don't run when the engine's off because clearly that'll be like a lot of power.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
mine only had like a cigarette lighter
Mhm.
and that's what I use. But I plug my inverter and like connect to my phone and like that. I wouldn't connect anything like high power, of course, because it was limited. But yeah, I think that's why I was able to run everything while my van was off. But that was a super lifesaver. That was
Yeah. I
really
imagine.
lifesaver. Because I'm the type of person who tends to forget to charge my phone and things like that. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, because if in van life, especially when you're traveling, if you don't have your phone, you're screwed. Like you
Yeah.
could be where you don't know. Like if you don't have your phone, what are you gonna do? And it can be very dangerous as well. It's like that's your emergency connection
Mm.
right there in case something happens. That's your way home. That's your way around. So I've been in a situation where I lost my phone at a Walmart.
Oh no.
I literally thought I was gonna have a breakdown. I did actually have a breakdown because I was thinking, and at that time I was traveling. I'm like, oh my god. I mean, I have money to like buy an emergency phones. I could buy like a flip phone for $20.
Yeah, you
But
can
I'm
go get a
thinking,
burner, but
yeah. But I'm like, oh my god, I don't even know how to drive somewhere to get a burner because like I don't know where I am. Like I'm traveling. I'm in a new area. I've never been here. I don't
yeah.
know, like I was at a Walmart, so I was like, oh my god, I can't even leave this Walmart because as soon as I leave here, I'll be screwed. Like I won't know what to do. So I was like, okay, at least I'm at Walmart. I can even stay here until I figure it out. But turned out, they found it. The customer service, thank
Oh, thank
God,
goodness.
and they found it, and I got it back. I was so scared, and that was also the way my some of like the few family members who knew I was traveling and stuff, that's how they kept up with me. So I was thinking like, okay, what happens if they're calling me and they can't get in touch with me? I was just freaked out. So yeah, cell phones are like huge
Yeah.
because I don't know. I can't read a map to be honest.
Neither can I.
So like I really can't. I can't read a map, So if I don't have GPS, like I can't read directions for some reason. I can only listen. Like you can tell me what to do, but if I have to read it, I won't. My brain just can't do it. So I'm like, oh my god, and I was really freaking out. I was thinking like, okay, where can I buy a map? I was like losing it. I was like, okay, maybe they sell maps at Walmart. I don't know. Where can I get a payphone? I'm like, how do you do this? And it's crazy because people used to do that all the time. But I was like, oh my god. But yeah, it's crazy how much your phone, especially in van life, is so important because it's
Well,
everything.
well, also like as far as like, internet on the road, entertainment on the
Yeah,
road,
and
like
making your video, anything. I mean,
all that stuff.
it's your TV, it's your phone, it's
Yeah.
your everything electronic that you have in your home. Your cell phone is. It's even
Yeah.
your light source.
Yeah. And I
So
think
it's so crazy.
even somebody who's like super super poor, if they can afford a cell phone, like if you have more money you can get like a tablet and you can
Yeah.
get a hotspot and you get all these, but if you at least have a phone and you can't
Hmm.
afford all those extra things, yeah,
Hmm.
it's your television, it's your it's your telephone, it's your GPS, it's like
Hmm.
it's such an important all-in-one device.
It can be a camera, your
Yeah.
entertainment system. You play games on there.
Yeah.
It's
Your
literally
video game system.
it's true.
Yeah, it's like
But
the first critical piece. If you keep that charged,
it's
until you can,
everything, and
yeah,
I really learned that a lot when I lo- I started learning it, but I really realized that when I lost it, and ever since then, I was always because your keys and your phone are like, and your wallet are. Because imagine, I used to always, because my cousin used to sometimes travel with me, and I did some videos with her, but she never wanted me to show her face. But I did a few videos with her, and I would always joke with her like, "Oh my god, what if like we get back to the car and it's not there, like it was towed or something?" And I used to always laugh. And she's like, "It's not funny, but it's so crazy because
yeah,
if you're like the littlest things become so exaggerated. Because like if your car gets towed, that means your home. It's like getting your home
oh yeah, it's not a joke.
clothes on or something. Like they
Yeah, it's
live.
not a
That's
joke.
your home. You have your everything. You have your food there. You have maybe documents there. Your bed, your shelter, like
Yeah,
the way for you to leave your current location. So things become important, like your wallet. If you don't have your wallet and you're traveling, if you lose it, it can become really difficult because
yeah,
most people only have one bank account, and it's hard when you're traveling. You might not have that your bank in that area, and now you're screwed. A lot of things. That's why they say when you're traveling, you should have more than one bank account. You should have cash, somewhere for emergencies,
yeah.
in case something happens. and things like that. Especially because a lot of times with our cards, when you go out of your normal areas, I don't know about your account, but I have a credit union, so they're very on it. And if I go somewhere I've never been before or spend like I'm not usually spending, they flag my card and
Yeah.
they'll deny everything. Okay, if you only have your card, you don't have cash, and they're denying everything. What are you gonna do? You know.
Yeah.
So I learned. I used to always take out some cash from Walmart for at least gas. So I would have 100 on me all the time for gas. So I'm like, no matter what, I will not be stranded. So yeah, things like that, little things like that are really important because
Yeah.
you're always like a step away from danger.
Yeah, I've been in California like a year now, and technically my bank doesn't exist out here. So, I mean, but obviously I've been spending money here for a year, so like there's not a problem with it being flagged.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a point where I thought my wallet was lost, and
Mm-hmm.
at that point, trying to get everything replaced. Luckily, I found my wallet, but at that point,
Mm-hmm.
I'd finally gotten around to getting like my bank card replaced, but I hadn't changed my address with the bank. And so they were like obviously sketchy about saying, "Hey, my name is Dawn. Ship a card to like California."
Exactly. You don't have. You might not. If you're in a van, you don't have an address specifically, like a home.
Yeah, and like
So
all of my
that can be
paperwork,
difficult.
until I found a way to like switch it over, all of my legal last address was all hooked to Maryland still, and I was in a completely different state. Which is just a problem when you move in general, but even more when you don't actually have a verifiable address in the place where you are. It's
Mm-hmm.
much easier when you can say, "Oh, now I'm at this address," and you're not like sort of trying to skirt the system. As far as addresses, did you have like a mailbox or anything like that? Like,
Now, I I used my apartment that I was in before I moved into the van because my ex was still living there, so I just used that. And
okay,
originally, when I went out on the road, the plan was I originally went out on the road like I'm gonna go to Orlando for 2 weeks, and then it ended up being like a long-term thing because you know Hobo Alley was the first Van Dweller I ever watched,
oh my
and
god, yes, I love
I
her.
don't know how she came up on my feed, but she did. It was random because I've never heard of
Yeah,
Van like never heard of anything like that, and she just came up on my feed. And at the time, I was watching a lot of lock videos because I was, I just was newly locked, so that's really all I watched on YouTube. Um, I wasn't really aware of a lot of even all the other kind of different YouTube channels. But yeah, she came up on my feed, but that was like one of her earlier days where she was living in a car and stuff. So
yeah,
she was a lot more relatable back then. And I'm like, this girl lives in her car. What the heck is going on? So I thought maybe like she was a runaway or she was like, you know, like down and out. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh my
yeah,
God,
yeah,
she's a normal girl. She seems very like typical SoCal kind of, you
yeah,
know, girl. I'm like, what the hell is she doing? And then so I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued because I'm like, what? It wasn't what I expected. I thought it was gonna be like some kind of sad. Maybe she was on drugs or
tragic.
something. I don't
Yeah,
know. I thought the worst. I was real ignorant back then about this because I just didn't know. So
yeah,
I watched it, and she was like, having a good time, just living her life, working, doing normal things. She just lived in her car. She liked it. And when I was younger, I used to always think, if I ever, you know, really got in a bad situation, I would just live in my car. And at that time, I'm like, because I'm like, okay, this is a car. You can. And then when I got to college, I remember we only had cold water at one time, and it was winter time in New Jersey. Only cold water, and they like you would put in a request to get it fixed, and they would take months. So for like 3 months, we only had cold water. So I went and I would take showers at the gym, at the school gym, and then
yeah,
that made me work out. So I was really fit at the time, and because I'm like, I'm not taking cold showers in the
yeah.
winter.
You get
And
a hot
then I thought about it, and I'm like, oh my God. That made me think, I'm like, if I was ever like really homeless, I would just live in my car and take showers at the gym because why not? And then so when she did it, I'm like, oh my God, she's using my idea. And that made me think. So then at that time, I wanted to travel. Me and my ex had just came to Miami for the first time, my first time in Florida. And I'm like, it's so beautiful here. How can I come back in a cheap way? So
Yeah,
then that's when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do what that girl did. And I remember my ex was laughing. He thought I was crazy. And then I just one day I got up and I was like, okay, I'm going to Orlando. And he thought I was joking. And he was like, if you stick to it, I'll buy you a van. You know, he was guessing. And I looked at it, I was like, where's my van? Never saw my van. But yeah, that's what made me, because I'm like, God, she's so right. Like it means I'm like, why would I pay rent when I could live in my car? Now, of course, it wasn't as easy as it looked.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you experience different things and you learn. And, you know, when I was watching her, I definitely wasn't thinking about how does she sleep comfortable in that car? How does she cook? You know, how long it takes to do every little thing. I didn't think
Yeah,
about the little things because clearly I didn't experience it. But she definitely made it was relatable. She was
yeah,
just a normal girl living her life. She wasn't down and out. She wasn't drugged out. She wasn't crazy. She was normal, you know,
yeah,
and in doing what she wanted, she didn't care. And then she looked normal doing it too. Because a lot of times when you're living van life, there is this stigma on you, and
yeah,
you know, people look at you like you're homeless, like you're less than, or you know, whatever. But she looked normal. She kept herself looking normal. Because a lot of times
yeah.
too, when people get in the vans, they just lose themselves. So that inspired me to. I was like, okay, I can do this. You know, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've kept up with her. First of all, she's changed the name of her channel. um
I haven't watched her in a
like
long time.
Alexandra Trejas or something like that. Whatever her actual name is.
Oh, that's her.
Um and she has a boyfriend now.
She still
Uh
lives in a van.
huh?
She still lives in a van.
She's giving it up. That's what she just announced in
Oh.
her latest video. There's a lot of people I haven't watched in months, and mostly because of the COVID-19 situation. I've been kind of curious, especially a lot of the van lifers who left the country. Those ones that got like, hundreds of thousands of subscribers and are pretty much living off YouTube, which is scary to me because like it's such a variable platform. To the point of even if you have the same amount of subscribers and views, certain
But
people get paid more than others. So like it's just a scare, and it could go away tomorrow.
the thing about YouTube, it's not YouTube is a way to get other revenue. Just like
Yeah,
maybe being a star. Like when you're on a reality show, you don't go on there to make the money off the reality show. You go there for exposure. And then from that exposure, you can get into shows, get businesses
yeah,
going. And that reality show will basically bank everything else. So that's what YouTube is. It's a platform for exposure. And once they get exposure, these people get deals and the commercials and other things. And that's what it really is. So
yeah.
it's not necessarily YouTube. So you see those people who they have all those followers and all that, but their money is not
Yeah.
YouTube only. They
Oh
have a
no,
lot
absolutely not. Like it's
and their
from selling
businesses.
merch,
So yeah, that's what it is. And for
sponsorships.
people like that, even if YouTube, you know, when YouTube is not picking up, they have, if you know, you make your moves right,
Yeah.
they have all that other stuff that keeps going. So I feel like, yeah, like Emin and Beck, they have their little tea business or whatever they do.
Yeah.
They have other
Yeah.
things going. They
Well,
did come back to their country, Canada.
I think they went back to Canada.
Mhm.
There's some people who are like still either choosing to stay overseas or still trapped, not necessarily overseas, but out of the country. But yeah, it's different choices different people have made from all the levels of van life, as it were, depending on what resources people have.
I mean,
Yeah.
I thought these countries were kicking those Americans out.
The
I
embassy.
know a lot of countries were having people leave.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, they don't know, especially people who are traveling in
Oh,
vans, like people
yeah.
in hotels, they can catch. It's like, go
Mhm.
home, get out. But like, if you're traveling like back roads in a van and then like, you have a friend in the country and you're like, do I want to leave my van? And it's just like your buddy, like they don't know you're there. Not really. Because I think like you can get in contact with the embassy, but you're kind of, off the radar, which is just part of van life, in another country or in the country.
Yeah.
You're sort of,
That's scary how people take their vans to other countries. Like
yeah,
you heard about that couple, they were cycling around the world and some terrorist group pulled them over and like murdered them.
Ooh.
You didn't hear about that?
No,
I
that's
heard that a
scary.
few months ago. They were like traveling. They weren't necessarily vandals. They were trying to kind of do it. They were kind of like the vandal thing where you travel and you're free and
Yeah, yeah,
minimal lifestyle. But they were cycling and they were in some Middle Eastern country and they just wrong place at the wrong time and they were killed. It's so crazy.
yeah.
I
That's
mean,
scary. And I don't know that I would ever do that solo,
yeah.
especially.
Who the hell does?
Um,
I'm sorry, but who does? Who does that?
people could do it,
I mean, when you go, and then to be honest, a lot of people are ignorant because they think like, okay, yeah, you're American, but where you're going, it's you're
Yeah,
an outcast. You're like different. You're not those people. You don't know how they really roll. Especially, it's one thing to stay around tourists, but when you're really going in, you have no protection, and you being American is not gonna save you. In
and
some cases,
sometimes they
it's
don't
gonna
even know
harm
the
you.
language. Sometimes they
Yeah,
don't know the
you,
language,
and
so
you're cycling. Do you even know where you're cycling? So
yeah,
I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's a sad situation, but it's also kind of like you really need to be more aware. And it's sad that like people can't just go and be free and do innocent things. But hey,
yeah.
that's just how the world is.
I mean, yeah, and that's the reality of the world. Like, I don't even know that I'm not gonna say I'm not interested in international travel. I probably would, but I think I'd want to do it in a more controlled way.
Yeah, like not cycling nowhere. What the
Yeah,
hell?
not cycling where we're in
Like
the
I wouldn't
middle.
cycle around America. What the hell you cycling in the Middle East? I mean, the Middle East, a
I'm
lot of
not
places.
laughing because it's funny. It's just like
Yes,
crazy, and
it's
that's
true.
how I react.
A lot of Americans don't understand that in other countries and other parts of the world, warfare is an everyday thing. Like they experience war every day, all the time. They're Syria, they've been having a war for years now. That's their normal. So when you think you're going out there, you're not gonna go out there and it's like this. We don't really see a lot of wars every day, you
Yeah,
know? Like what's the last war we really had? The Civil War. We've never really had a lot of wars on our land.
yeah,
A lot
in
of countries
actual
have wars
America.
on their land
Yeah,
till today. So you just can't go gallivanting around because that's just crazy. It's really sad that happened.
yeah,
But
absolutely. On the much less serious scale, I can't remember who, but I know one of the van lifers who had left the country, and I don't know if they were in South America, but maybe that's where they were. I know their van got robbed,
oh
like a
shoot.
bunch of camera got stolen. Um,
I'm
and
sorry.
like they were just out there being like, "Oh, look at me," and like they weren't they're doing their job, like it's something they do to make money because like
Mm-hmm.
their social media status and all of that
Mm-hmm.
is their business to a certain extent. But at the same time, like somebody was like, "Oh, I see what you got. Okay, you took it back to
Yeah.
that van. Oh, you're not near the van." Like somebody was like watching them and like, "I'll show you how much your privilege is worth here." Uh,
Yeah.
and so like that's what it is. Like even if you aren't like super rich, your perception from those people when you're
Yeah.
coming
I
looking like
mean,
as you are.
yeah. I mean, if you're American, period, whether you're white or you're black, if you go to a third world country, automatically your money. That's what
Yeah.
they see. And they can tell the difference. Like even I'm Kenyan, born in Kenya, my parents are Kenyan, everyone in my family, no one was born here. But I've lived here for a while. So I have the appearance more not of like an authentic Kenyan because your appearances change over time depending on where you
Yeah.
live geographically. So they can tell like, okay, she's not necessarily raised here. And when I go to Kenya, they look at me as somebody else and they expect things from me just by the way I look.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I ain't rich, that's what they expect. So I have to be careful. When you travel to a third world country, whether you're from there or not, you have to be careful. Let alone when you're in a van with all your prized possessions. First of all, a nice ass van. To those people, you know what kind of cars normal people in third world countries drive? Most people don't even drive cars. They've never been in a car, let alone like a nice van.
Yeah.
Because especially to them, people don't live in vans. To them, when they see a utility van, they're seeing, okay, there's stuff in there. There's technology. Even here in America, a lot of people get robbed their vans get robbed, because when people see a utility van, they assume there's technology in there.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not gonna assume, oh, somebody lives there,
I
They're
mean, even
thinking,
if they do
okay,
assume that, they assume if you can afford like a nice cargo van, they're like, if I
yeah,
break into
they're
this,
assuming it's a work van, and they're
yeah,
assuming there's technology in there or some kind of work material, because that's why people have utility vans. That's why companies have utility vans, because they have materials in there. So that's what they're thinking. But then when they break in, they're like, oh shoot, there's even more than what I expected in here. So it's like, oh, like they have a field day. And that's what happens every time. I've seen a bunch of those where people get robbed, which it makes sense, because they're thinking, because a lot of people, a lot of companies get their car
yeah,
get robbed, or
absolutely,
vans, because there's always material and people know, okay, nobody thinks it's empty. Even an empty car people are gonna steal, but let alone in a third world country. They have this person appearing to be American. It's a utility van and it's nice. They're assuming there's stuff in there, so
yeah,
yeah, they're gonna rob it. And then when they get in there, it's gonna be like even better than what they thought, and they're gonna go wild in there. And I mean, I don't get thieves. I think stealing is such a horrible thing, because everyone works for what they have.
yeah, yeah,
It's
absolutely,
theirs. Just because you don't have doesn't mean you should take from others. But then again, you got to be careful. You cannot be, especially in third world countries. I mean, people are poor. People are willing to do a
yeah.
lot.
I mean, even with
Yeah.
my van, I like it looking like sort of a lame soccer mom van, like something nobody wants to deal with.
That's why
Like,
minivans are awesome, because nobody wants to steal that.
oh,
they,
it's just like
you know,
soccer balls and stinky socks in there.
you know, like nobody. I mean, I had somebody come into my minivan twice, but that's only because, and it's funny because both times it was when I wasn't staying in the van. It was like when I was staying in the apartment, taking like a little hiatus or whatever. But it's because that area had some like drug addicts, so that was that. Because I mean, you know how many minivans were there? Like it's a residential area,
Yeah.
but it just happened that I don't know.
I used to
Someone
live in Avalon, and the window got busted out, and it was because of where I parked.
Mhm.
And I was staying in a house at the time. I was just
Exactly.
staying over with somebody, and I think one, they knew the car was empty, and two, it was in the perfect vulnerable spot. And like after it happened, the lady who lived in the house, she was like, "Yeah, you should never park on that particular side of the street."
And
Um,
that's the same thing with me. I parked next to like this empty warehouse, just because the street is a one-way street. And when you come, I used to come after work. So when you come at a certain time, there's limited parking. If anytime I've ever parked next to the house, nothing has ever happened. Both times were when it was parked next to that warehouse where it's not in view of a home,
mhm.
and I believe both times it was the same person. It was probably the same drug addict, because they come at like night or something.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, the first time they just broke the handle. They stole my jumper. I
Mhm.
had this jumper and it had charging things. They stole that. That was the only thing they stole. But the second time, they stole my stove, which was in its case, in the black case, and I think they probably thought it was something more.
Yeah, because I had stove
Yeah,
stolen.
and I'm like, and I remember in my video I joked, I'm like, they're probably like cooking crack on it right now, because it's a stove. They probably opened it and I was like, oh my god, it's a stove, and they're probably cooking their crack on it or whatever they smoke. But they stole that, and I had my bag. They stole my bag, but nothing was in it, because it was just like an extra purse I had, and they
Yeah,
probably thought it was my actual purse, but it wasn't.
yeah,
But those are both times where my car was parked as a regular resident vehicle. So
yeah,
yeah, that's what helps with minivans. Minivans are a lot stealthier
yeah,
in that way, because they look boring, and
yeah,
even if you have a minivan parked, it looks normal. It
yeah,
fits into the community.
yeah. And as much as I love the space in like low roof cargo vans, even that is an option. Like then you get into the work van problem, which we were just talking about, where like people see it, and if they do want to steal, then they might think, oh, there's even tools are really expensive. So even if
Mm-hmm.
it's just like high end tools, it's like something to take. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it does. I mean, I'm not saying I would reject a cargo van if I could get one and do an upgrade, but I mean, there's just complications, I think, to like parking in the city. And you just gotta get used to being in the city. I feel like I park safer when I'm sleeping in it because I feel like I'm thinking more about my safety when I'm physically in the vehicle, if that makes any sense. When I'm not in the vehicle, I'm just worried about it like being there when I get back, which is why like I try not to do like I feel like people will experiment with parking when they know they have a house. I know that sounds crazy as stuff, but I know when I was working in San Francisco, this guy was like, "Oh, you should just try to park around this corner with that building. Technically, you're not supposed to park there, more than 3 hours, but I see people get away with it." And I was like, I'm not risking my van not being in there, when I get off work. I'd rather park further away and know it's there. That's my house. I didn't tell him all that because I hadn't told him at that point, but that was what was going through my head. But yeah, like if your car gets towed and you live in, a house or an apartment, it's like, okay, you can go to your apartment and try to figure out where it is, and you haven't like lost your place to sleep that night. And so I think that gave it a lot more weight about where like I parked it while I was working. But I was also very nervous whenever I had to park like really, really far away.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a different kind of stress when like you live in your vehicle than when you don't.
Yeah, your whole life.
Yeah.
It's like if your house can move, you would be cautious about where you leave your house because that's where all your stuff is. That's your shelter.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, all your stuff is in your stagnant house as well, but it's like it's in that one spot. So there's very little fear you're going to walk and it's not there. Like the actual structure is not going to be there. Obviously, houses get broken into as well, but when people break into your van and have the possibility of taking the whole thing away, or
like, if it was possible for a house to be rolled away or physically stolen every day, that's the feeling for the bricks. Imagine if your house was on wheels and it could be driven away.
Yeah, like you drive back to 142 my house and your house ain't there.
It's like, because even if you get your house broken into, at least you still have shelter. The only thing about it though is if you have a sticks and bricks and it gets broken into, you physically still live there. So it's always that feeling. They know where I live. I'm still here.
Yeah.
The thing about a van is that, okay, I can choose to never come here again.
Yes.
I can choose to only park in really good places. But with sticks and bricks, that's where your house is. Yeah. And it's hard. Like some people physically move because it is scarring. It's a real scarring. I mean, it took me forever to get over that because you do feel violated. You feel unsafe. You feel like somebody's watching you because you're thinking like, have they been watching me?
Yeah.
Was this planned? Can they do it again? And statistics do say that burglars usually come back within 3 months.
Yeah.
They do the same. Burglars repeat there. And with me, the statistics were completely right because it did happen.
Wow.
Again, within about 3 months, and it's true. So for people who are stuck in a particular location in sticks and bricks, it is harder because you always have to come back to that house. And, you might love your house or your apartment and you don't want to depart from it, but that could be a deal breaker for you if you get robbed. So that's the good thing about a van is, okay, if I get robbed, yeah, it's scarring, but I can move my location. It's not like, so I won't have to be stuck in that place.
That's why I think it's harder to be poor in a house because it's like, there's only certain neighborhoods you can afford at a certain income level. Whereas like, honestly, I've parked my van in some high end like neighborhoods, like not like HOAs with like gated neighborhoods, but like I can just drive into some pretty safe neighborhoods that I feel like, are 100% safe. Park my little minivan behind, Mama Joe's minivan and like nobody thinks about it all night. And you can't make those choices when you're doing traditional housing because like, prices restrict you to certain areas. So even if you can't afford an apartment, where is that apartment? What's the crime level of that area? And once you choose to get in those leases, it's not like if you're unhappy next week, you can just leave.
You're very much restricted. You're very much restricted. And that's what I loved about van life. I used to always say, I mean, if I can in a van, if I can live in it anywhere, why the hell would I live in a poor neighborhood?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Like, if I can park anywhere, why the hell would I park in a poor neighborhood? No,
Yeah.
and I used to be a snob. I don't care. With my
Oh no, I'm
grand
with you.
van, I don't care how my minivan. I'm like, I'm not gonna. I have a choice. I used to go because I used to do Uber, especially when I was down here in Florida. And Florida has a lot of gated communities, even if it's like a mediocre apartment complex. They're gated just because I guess that's the culture here. So any apartment building usually has a gate. If it's like a complex though. So I used to deliver, and like if it's my last delivery of the day, I would
Yeah.
just because when you get in, they give you the passcode to get in.
Yes, we can get.
So I would just stay, and I'm like, why can't I? If you can give yourself the best, why not? You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
exactly.
a lot of times I would stay at the beaches. That's where I really primarily used to stay when I was in the van here. I mean, why not if you can? Now, can I live at the beach? No. you know, but van life does afford you that, especially when you're living in a minivan, because you really, really don't stand out. You know,
Yeah.
that's the cool thing. So I do miss that. I miss, and I would even like, because I used to urban vandal a lot, and I would stay in like towns in which I could never live in.
Yep.
Really nice towns. And they always had the best amenities. They'd had nice parks. They had a lot of free things because, I mean, if you go to a lower income place, you're probably not going to have a lot of super nice amenities. You're not going to have the cleanest areas. You're not going to have a lot of free stuff. So in those other towns, I had a lot of free things. You know, I could go to some parks. They were really clean. They had water. They had this and that. So yeah, that's what I liked.
You
I
really
live
see the culture
in.
line, like, because I remember going to like even something as simple as like a Safeway in like a poorer neighborhood, and then going to a Safeway in like a higher end neighborhood, and you really see the reality of that, of like just the resources
Oh
and
yeah.
how they change
Oh
in
yeah.
a different neighborhood with a different income, and it's the same company, so it's like they're
Oh yeah.
consciously doing
Oh yeah.
this.
It's just there's different culture. I mean, it'll be cleaner.
Yeah.
It's such. I mean, people will be. It's just more. It's just a lot more. You get a
Yeah.
lot more nicer neighborhood. And I always used to say, because growing up, we always lived in decent neighborhoods, but we were always like the poorest ones in the
Yeah.
neighborhood. But as an adult now, I'm like, I thank my parents for that because I'd rather be the poorest person in the nicest neighborhood than the richest person in a poor neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because even if you're poor, you still get the amenities of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know,
If you're
because
the lowest one on the list, you
yeah,
still
because
on the list.
for everyone, whatever's for the public's for the public. So it doesn't matter if you're the poorest one in the neighborhood, but if you're the richest one in the neighborhood, you're paying for all that shit, and they're
Yeah.
getting it. So that's how I felt with van life. I'm like, why not go to these places? It's free and have access to it because it's not like I have to pay rent here. So I'm getting all the benefits without paying in. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that flex, I mean,
And
there's nothing that can top that flexibility. Obviously, like there's difficult stuff in van life. There's, not standing up in your house for one. Like that's not fun. I will say, like, it's been nice to stand up in a kitchen and cook. That's been like one of the most enjoyable things about this, and being able to like really prepare food without worrying about if I have enough gas to cook on my like camping stove, and like, if it's okay for me to even cook, because it's like, what time of day is it? Do I feel like trying to do this in the van by cracking the window? Do I want to go find a park? And those are all those little micro decisions um, that can make van life feel really difficult. But, at my stage right now, with what I could afford, I'd rather be living in a van than struggling to pay rent where I am right now financially. Wise, I am in my most stable position. But there are, it's the trade-off. You get the freedom, but there's all these other little micro decisions that you make in a different way. How you bathe, when you bathe, how you cook, where you cook, how you're going to charge your items, like even with the solar, because I only have one 100-watt panel. Like the first time I actually got to sit still all day and not drive and still, have power that I could use all day was great. But if it's an overcast day, I only have one little 100-watt panel. If I'm not parked in the right place all day, then my batteries might not get charged and I won't have the same amount of power to make it like overnight. So it's an improved situation over what I had before, but I have to be very conservative with my power. And what I found since I got solar, people are like, "Oh, you have solar, you can run an electric heater." I'm like, "Do you know how much power an electric heater you?"
Like, electric heaters are impossible. I mean, you realize the little. It's funny because van life makes you realize the little things that you take for granted. It kind of takes you back in time because you do have to do some things like the old-fashioned way, and it makes you realize, like, right now I have this light on with my fan. I don't have to think about how many watts that is.
Yeah. You don't have to do math.
It's unlimited. I can turn on my shower right now. I don't have to think about how many gallons I have in the tank or exposing to. I can stay in the shower all day. It wouldn't matter. I can wash my dishes all day if I wanted to. But in a van, it's like, okay, you only have 5 gallons of water.
Yeah.
So you can try to run that water all day if you want to, and then you're paying it by the gallon. Yeah, it's a cheap amount if you get it from the dispensaries, but still, it's limited no matter what, and you are paying it per gallon. So it's just like, back in the day when they would have to fetch water and all that stuff. It makes you think of that and how electricity is not limited. So a lot of things are unlimited, and I find that the simplest things are more difficult in real life. Like washing dishes takes so long. And it sucks. It's just like, it's the worst. Like, you don't want to use pots. You don't want to heavy cook. It's just horrible.
You don't want to do anything that's gonna like really like make it like I find like cream of wheat, which is relatively simple, but it leaves a really messy pot. And like in the van, like getting something like that clean, first of all, it's going to take way more water than if I do soup, which is relatively easy to clean up after. And so like your decisions are like, how much do I want to commit to this? Whereas like I didn't have a second thought about like doing a pasta or something messy with a full kitchen. Whereas like, and I think that's every level of van life, because even if you have, and I say this all the time, even if you have the sink, let's say you have the nice van with the sink, it still has a limited water supply.
Yeah, there's
and
no
how you're living and where you're living, you still have to think about the point where that's going.
And that's the thing too. It's like, even like with showers, it's like especially with van life, every little thing is a step. Like right now, I can go shower. I'm still in the same place. I can go wash my dishes. I'm still in the same place. I can go eat. But with van life, okay, maybe depending on what you have, to use the internet, you have to go somewhere. To shower, you might have to go somewhere. You have to always go. You do have to buy groceries more often because you can't store as much. You do have to continuously go to the store. So it teaches you how to minimize your use, which is a good thing. Because we realize that we do use a lot of stuff that we don't really need to do. So, and those are the, like, who would have thought dishes, taking a shower, simple things that when you wake up, I just go and take a shower. I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
But in life, if like it's a holiday, a holiday will suck.
Well, even right now, like a lot of the gyms are closed. So people who are like still doing van, like 90% of vans, even the nice ones, do not have showers.
Exactly.
Some have sinks, but showers are way more rare.
Because and I always say that, like, even whether you're in a car or in your Sprinter, most likely you guys are both using a bucket. Or if not, a public restroom, because at the end of the day, it's always going to be a vehicle at the end of the day.
Yeah. And it's there. Like when you flush your toilet in your house, even if you have a flushable toilet in the van, there's a tank inside your van. Like that poop is still there until you get rid of it.
As much as but it's still going to be a vehicle.
Yeah.
And that's humbling, to be honest.
Yeah. No, yeah. And it's like that's most people's situations in vans. I don't care how big they are. And like I said, even if you're flushing it into a tank in some way that you still have to worry about. Like that poop that you do is going to be floating around with you until you go to a dump station. So whether you're doing it in a bag or a tank, like you have to figure out how to like live with these things. And it's different challenges.
They can have the nicest vans, but for some people they can't, because if you're not willing to poop in something that you got to drain yourself or in a bag, it don't matter if you have a Sprinter, you can't do it then, because
Yeah.
you're gonna have to do one of those things or use public restrooms. So if you're not about that, it doesn't matter how nice your rig is, you won't be able to do it. And that's why some people just can't do it, because some of the things are inevitable.
Yeah.
Some of the struggles are just going to be struggles, just because at the end of the day, you're not in a stationary home.
You're in a car no matter how big it is. like it's a car.
How big, nice, how expensive, how shiny, how built out. Yeah. But I do miss van life. I miss the freedom. I miss being wherever. And I feel like it does make you go out more. You spend your time outside more.
Yeah.
And I felt like van life, I didn't like, excuse me, when you're in an apartment or a house, you could spend like a lot of time just sitting and doing nothing and not realize it, because you're so comfortable and it's easy to get into that routine. But van life forces you to, because you're always outside in the elements, it forces you to kind of get out. And because it's hard, I mean, in a van life too, you could stay in your bed all day, but it's hard to do that than stay in your bed in like a sticks and bricks. So it does make you explore the outside a little bit more and get out and do stuff and go out, like even if it's at the library. So I did like that.
Yeah. And like I love, like I said, of the choices I have in my life right now, I love my van. Can I still look at the reality of it? Especially as like an urban van dweller. It's like, yeah, there's some things that are challenging, but also like there's also some things I don't get that people consider challenging, like with the parking thing. We were both talking about like we could choose where we wanted to park, but there are people who seem to consistently park in places that get them quote unquote harassed all the time. And like I'm like,
you have to be knowledgeable. And then the other thing too is it depends your rig. It depends how your rigs are.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We have minivans, so we have a huge advantage because we don't stand out in any way.
Yeah.
But imagine if you had like a customized rig. Some people have their rigs looking all crazy on the outside, like clearly looking like some rigs. That's challenging. Or if you have a utility van, or if you have a truck or something, it gets more challenging. But yeah. And then also it depends where you live. In some parts of the country it's a little bit harder. And it also depends your attitude and your flexibility. Some people want to park certain places. Some people kind of feel entitled, which really annoys
Well,
me.
some people don't want to move. They want to like claim a spot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They want to only park certain places. And I'm like, you don't have a home, sir.
Yeah.
Like, physical location home. So you can't think like, oh, this is not your driveway. You're going to have to change it up, because at the end of the day, you're always, every night is not a given,
Yeah.
park there. And it might seem like it because after a while you get used to it and stuff, you feel, but at the end of the day, it's not yours. And you always have to remember that. And I feel like some people lose that. And then some people have this idea of, well, this is America, we have freedom of this and I should be able to park at Walmart. No, that's a business. Do you own that?
And that lot is technically private.
Do you pay for that lot? Because no, you don't.
Yeah.
Do you pay for property? No, Walmart does. So unless you want to chip in and pay their rent, I don't understand people, but some people do have that attitude, and it does get in their way. Like, I've gotten a few knocks, probably like maybe 3 my whole life career, but I never felt personally offended, unless the person was rude. I only had one cop who was rude. He was just really snarky about it. But that's the only time I felt some kind of way, because he personally was a rude man. But every
Yeah.
other time, it was nice people, but they're just, telling me, okay, you can't park here. I know I don't own that property, so of course I'm not gonna have an issue. Whatever, I'll just move on.
Yeah.
My thing is just like be respectful. But there are some cops and stuff who are really nasty
Yeah,
people.
which I'm sure they exist. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
denying their
but
existence.
that to me, I'm not gonna be mad at Walmart. I'm gonna be mad at that cop who's nasty to me because
Yeah.
but
I mean, like, the actual situation
I
of like you can't park here, like I've had that happen a couple of times. It was never a cop, it was always security. And it was parking lots both times. One of them was
mhm.
Walmart, and they were like, "We don't allow overnight parking," and I was like, "Cool." And I got in the driver's seat, and went and found someplace else to park. And then the second time, I was shocked because it was a gym parking lot.
Mhm.
And that was while I was still in the car, and I had very obvious reflectix on the window. But at
Mhm.
that point, like, I'd been ignored so much, and I'm like, this is obvious as hell to me. But at that point, I'd been ignored so much, I felt really, really comfortable. And I got a knock on the window, and it was like some security guy, some young guy, and he was like, "You can't sleep here." But there was also like another car, 2 cars down from me.
Mhm.
And I think he just was like, all right, we're gonna shut this down before like people think,
Yeah.
like a gathering spot. And the same thing, I was like, okay, and got in my driver's seat and drove and found someplace else where I could sleep and went on to bed. And luckily, like nobody I've met has been rude. It's basically been that. It's been like, you can't sleep here, okay, and like take my vehicle and go on my way. Don't argue with them about it. Cause I mean, like, I don't own that parking lot. Like of all the times I've gotten away with things that I probably shouldn't have gotten away with, I'm not going to cry over the like 2 or 3 times that I didn't.
I think a lot of times too, after the first time, it gets easier.
Yeah.
Like the first time you're freaking out because you don't know what to expect and you're feeling nervous. And a lot of times you do feel like you're doing something wrong because you understand there's taboo to it. So I
Yeah.
know that's how I felt. And especially in the beginning, you do feel self conscious. Like I remember my first knock was my first day in Jacksonville.
Oh wow.
And this is how I know I was such a noob at Vanlife. At the time, it was like, I was watching all those videos of people parking at the beach. My dumb self, my first day van life, I come to Jacksonville, go on the beach, park at the beach, and I'm chilling. I got my water. I'm like, okay, I've had a long ride here. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm like, now that I think about it, I'm such a dummy. But I was, you were when you first start you just don't know.
Yeah.
So of course I got a knock because I'm at a beach, where there's a bunch of restaurants and stuff, and there's cops, and it's a tourist zone. It's
Yeah.
like, what the doing? Like, this is not no private beach or something somewhere. Those, and and now that I think about it, I'm like, okay, it was done back time. I didn't know, but they were really nice. But yeah, and so yeah, we make mistakes, but I wasn't. It made me learn, like, yeah, girl, you can't be just parking anywhere like that and chilling, like, and
Yeah.
yeah, not beach is friendly. You gotta, look for so that, and I'm happy I learned that lesson so early on because moving forward, I changed how I rolled after that, and
Yeah.
it took me a while to get another knock, and I knew how to deal with it, and thank God, for the most part, I had really good officers. It was always officers who knocked on my window, except yeah, I think they were all officers, but they were all pretty decent. Now the one time I was in Oklahoma City, and the officer knocked, but I parked. I should have just parked at the Planet Fitness, but I parked in this lot away from the Planet Fitness. It was like a plot, like a strip mall,
With
and
the multiple businesses.
yeah, but the problem was that the part I parked was like a car mechanic area. So of course, people leave their cars there, so there's high security there, because anyone could come and rob those cars. So I parked right next to the cars, and in my head, I'm so stupid. I was thinking, oh well, I'll blend in because there's a bunch of cars here.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, when a car comes into an empty parking lot, that's sketchy because those cars have already been parked there and everybody's
Yeah.
been home. So as soon as I parked in there, he came and he knocked on my window and I tried to ignore him, which is I kind of was almost falling asleep. I'll ignore him, but he kept knocking, so I just came out. He was like, "Oh man, you can't park here." So I was like, "Cool." So I just went back to the Planet Fitness parking lot and slept, and it was all good. But it was just like sometimes it's really dumb moves that make you get caught, and then
Yeah.
it's really not a big deal. And usually, don't argue with people because why? Why would you
Exactly.
leave? You know, even if they're being rude, whatever. It's always best to just first of all, you don't want to give more information. You don't want to interact more. And that's just my rule with law enforcement, period. Just because I'm not a troublemaker, I don't like to get in trouble. I don't
Yeah.
like to get so I'm just like, let's keep this minimal as possible. But yeah, so you learn with each lesson. So yeah, but that Oklahoma, I was like, oh, I'm so dumb. But yeah, it was just like a learning lesson. It was like, you know, you make simple mistakes. Like when I look at my when I look back now, I'm like, wow, I've learned so much in van life.
Yeah.
Like I did in my first few days were so dumb, but it's like you just don't know. It's like you're a kid, you
Yeah.
don't know.
And I will say some videos make things like parking on the beach or like parking in these idyllic places look so easy, and
Mhm,
there's so many like rules you have to be aware of. And
mhm,
looking around you have to do to make sure that that's okay. I think
mhm,
like the most interesting encounter I had though was crossing into Canada
mhm.
because I had never crossed the border before, so I didn't really think about what was in my van
Oh
um
yeah.
before I got to the Canada border. And then I didn't think about looking suspicious, like because
If
obviously
you
they
cross
don't.
the band, yeah, because they're thinking you're moving your ass in there.
Yep,
And they're
yep.
I do have everything you own. And you're sitting there
Yeah.
like,
I was like, oh, I'm traveling from California, which was true.
and they're
And
like,
like,
sure, Trump just became president. No, I see what you're doing. They're like, I know better because all y'all say move to Canada if he becomes president. I'm like, I had the same thing when I was going into Canada from Detroit. And the worst thing is, I have a New Jersey license plate at the time because I lived in Jersey, but I was in Michigan. So I said, let me just go to Canada. So he's like, oh, why does your license plate say New Jersey? Why would you come all this way just because I was like, no, sir, I'm not gonna stay too long. I'm just staying for the day. Because it was only 30 minutes away from
yeah,
Detroit. I'm like, I just want to see Canada. Like, why not? It's only 30 minutes away. And he's like, why would you drive here all the way from New Jersey just to come see the place for one day? And I'm like, sir, I was already in Michigan.
with all your
It's
stuff in the van.
First of all, and I thought it would be simple because I'm thinking like I'm not an illegal immigrant. I'm just going to see. So I'm not thinking I'm not doing anything.
Yeah,
But to them, like they don't know you. So they look at my van. First they took away my pepper spray. I was so upset. Because now I'm like, all my safety is gone.
yeah,
Now I could get freely robbed and I wouldn't have any way to defend myself. And then they were searching. And it's funny because I had knives that I used to cut like regular kitchen knives.
yeah,
That they didn't see, but they saw my peppers, whatever. So then they searched my car up and down. They're like, okay, they're like, okay, you know, what's going on with your car? I was like, oh, I'm just traveling. Okay, cool. And then of course the black guy comes and like bullies me. So
oh no,
he comes and he's like, oh, he's asking me questions like, oh, why are you here? I'm like, I'm visiting my friend. What's your friend's name? I said Van Dwelling Brandon because I was going to see. And I'm like, why? And he's like, oh, I was like, yeah, that's my friend. Because he was worried that, okay, I came from why do I have a New Jersey's license plate crossing into Canada from Michigan? And I'm explaining to him. And then he's like giving me a hard time. And I'm so pissed because I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, bruh, no. So then he says, oh, I'm going to have to take you to an interrogation room. I'm like, what?
wow,
He was, and I just think he was just being an ass, to be honest, because I'm like,
yeah,
what the hell? You know, because the other officers who searched my van were like, okay, you're good. We just got to tell, you know, our superior, whatever. And of course, their superior giving me a hard time. So he's like, oh yeah, he was like, Van Brett, how do you know him? I was like, through YouTube. I was like, being totally honest, which I
yeah.
shouldn't. So my honesty was like digging me into a hole. So he looks up my YouTube channel and looks up Brandon's channel. And then I'm like so embarrassed because I'm like, okay, this is a lot right now. And then he's like, well, he was like, because I told him I don't live in my van. I just travel in my van. Because
Yeah.
I didn't, if I say I live in my van, it makes their fears come to life because it's like, okay, she could
Yeah.
easily move here.
Yeah,
'Cause
you don't have any ties to take you back.
yeah, exactly. So I was like, no, I don't live in my van. He's like, well, according to your YouTube, you live. You live all that. And I'm like, no, it's just YouTube, you know.
Exactly.
And he's sitting here literally watching my YouTube channels, literally pulling up Brandon's YouTube. And I'm like, what the hell? I honestly wanted to tell him, can I just go back to just let me
Like, can I just go back to
reverse? Because this is a lot more than I expected. And then he so then he sent me to the interrogation room, came in there, and I'm like, okay, dude, I was like, and at the time I was still in school. So I'm like, dude, he was like, well, we don't know you don't have any ties, whatever. I was like, dude, I have school. I have to get back to school. And he was like, oh, you do? And he was like, do you have your ID? I was like, yeah, I have my ID right here. And that's when he let me go. Because I'm like, oh my God. So he literally thought I was trying to move to Canada.
Yeah, no,
Like,
mine wasn't as bad as yours, but there was a point where I was like, they were like, how long are you staying? And I was only going to stay like a day because I was, Chrome Valdez from Vancity Vanlife was having his Christmas thing. And so literally I went up there for that and then I was going to come back. But I had to show them my license that had the California address on it because they were like, do you live in California? Because I did mention I was a YouTuber and I was going to a YouTuber's event. And he was like, oh, you're just coming up here for one day to meet a YouTuber? I was like, yeah. And like, I was wearing the channel merch at the time. And then I just like, I'm like, I'm going to tell as much of the truth. But I also said that I had a job. And that, yeah, when I was like, oh, there's a job I have to get back to, which was true. I had like a show that I had to go back and stage manage for. But that was really the thing. It was like, okay, you have an address in California, you have a job in California. And yeah, that was really like, okay, so you're not going to like just drive your camper van and stay.
Is that live physically somewhere, you have family ties, and you have a job.
Yeah.
That's really what they want to know.
Even though,
because I thought they would want evidence of that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, anyone could say, oh, I have this, this, and that, and not have it. So I found that funny. So that's why I was scared, because I'm like, okay, I know that I physically live in my van. That's why I lied originally, because I thought they would make me show, even though I had a license or something, I thought they would like dig more. But if I would have known they just take your word for it, then I would have, But I was thinking of like, okay, they're gonna make me show proof of stuff that I don't have proof of because I live in my van.
And they pulled from your YouTube channel.
Exactly. And I'm a very honest person. I'm not a good liar, honestly.
Yeah.
But like, I would just snitch on myself all the time. So I'm gonna sit there and tell you the truth, and it might be incriminating, but it's the truth. So that's what I was doing, and it was making my situation worse. But now that I know, I would handle it. I know how to handle it. But yeah, but most people say they didn't have that experience, because I've watched the videos where people did not experience that at all. So it's who you get, and it's variable. Because when I shared that onto the Vanlife channel, a lot of people were so shocked that I experienced that, and some people were saying they experienced the same thing. So it's variable. So you always have to just be on your toes.
Well, I met a guy who had a campervan, and he had a legit like Class B, and he says he gets harassed in and out every time. And he was like a middle-aged white guy, like very bad suburban looking.
I think it depends on the person who's there, not really you.
Yeah.
Because there's some people who said they've gone a few times and it's been okay. Sometimes they've been like interrogated. So yeah, so that was the thing. And the other thing I had an issue with was when I was leaving Canada. I miss Canada. Ugh, I don't know. The whole time I was in Canada, I couldn't believe I was in Canada because it looks just like the U.S.
It's so weird. Yeah.
Look the same, and it's like the only difference is that they say about instead of about. That's the only way I could be like, okay, that's a Canadian. But otherwise, everything is pretty much the same, except they have French signs and stuff. But so it was a weird experience. But when I was leaving, I was trying to film me coming back through the gate to the bridge, and I had my recorder on, my phone on, and I was passing the checkpoint, and I had forgot my phone was still on recording. So the the border patrol guy, this is me coming back into the US, and he's like, "Is that your phone? Is it recording?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I hadn't even forgot, so I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "Okay, yeah." And he's like, "Oh, I need to take your phone." And so he thought I was trying to record him. And at the time, it was in the height of the whole Black Lives Matter thing.
Uh,
So I think they thought I was doing that, but I was really just recording for my channel. Like I
yeah.
didn't even know at the time that it was still on, because I usually just put my camera on, hold it on, like I have the holder on the dashboard and leave it there. So
And then just drive. Yeah.
so I wasn't even thinking about it. So he was like, "Oh, come inside. We need to confiscate your phone. Show me all." He was like, "Go in your videos and stuff and show me what you recorded." And I'm just like, "What is going on?" So then he takes me inside. So, but the guy inside was like really chill. Now I feel like he was trying to do like quality control. He was like, "It's okay." He was like, "Are you worried?" I think he also thought I was doing it for a Black Lives Matter kind of thing, where I felt unsafe. But I didn't feel unsafe. I was just recording it.
Yeah, for YouTube.
I'm like, "Sir, I'm not worried. I'm not trying to record any of you." Literally, my phone was facing the bridge, and I even had forgot about it. So he was like, "Ma'am, it's okay." He was nice, and he was trying to reassure me. But I'm like, "Sir, you don't need to, you don't need to feel bad." I was
Yeah.
just, it was weird. But the other guy had already deleted all my footage, so I lost my footage for coming back
Oh,
because
that's
he deleted it. Yeah, he was like really stuck up about it, really upset. And I'm like, and it's so funny because I'm like, if you would only understand that I wasn't trying to why would I record you? Like, and I'm not scared. First of all, I don't see border control as cops.
yeah. I
So,
don't.
I'd more likely record a cop pulling me over than border control. So
Yeah.
it was kind of laughable that he thought he was threatening enough for me to feel like I needed to record the situation. I'm like, okay, chill. But yeah, so they do say that you're not supposed to record crossing the border. They have all these laws or whatever. But I recorded crossing into the Canadians don't have an issue with it, but the US people do.
Uh,
But it depends who you get. I think that guy was just bad because the Canadians, I was recording. I even recorded originally when because I had my thing on the whole time, and when they pulled me over and searched my car, my thing was still on. But after that, I was so scared. After like he made me go into the interrogation room, I was so scared. I deleted all the footage because I was like, "Oh my god, like I'm gonna get deported." Like I was
yeah.
just so freaked out, so I just deleted it. That was awesome footage, though. I wish I would have kept it, but they just freaked me out so bad. I was just like, whatever.
Hey, you had to
Yeah,
do what you
I
had to
think
do.
the U.S. stringent on it
Yeah.
than Canada. Canada didn't care.
Yeah, I think like there, I'll definitely hand because I want to go back. I was on the Vancouver side, so actually there isn't a lot of French there. So literally, when you cross over, it's just you cross the border, but it still feels like the U.S. really. Like it was very weird that way. It was like I'm in another country.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Where I was, it was right across from Detroit, so it literally looked like Detroit. Like it was ridiculous.
Yeah. I still would like to at some point do a road trip through Canada into Alaska just to say I did it. But I would need like enough free time to like do that. So yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. We really need to get to the other side of this COVID-19 thing. Just
Oh
so I
yeah.
see what work is gonna look like for me on the other side. Because unfortunately the money I would have made is now not going to be made. And unemployment isn't going to give me, what I would have gotten. And
Oh yeah.
even if I get the stimulus check, I heard some people have gotten it already.
How is that?
I
There's a
don't
lot of frauds going on about it too.
know.
I
But
haven't
like
even filed my taxes, to be honest.
I filed mine recently. Because I was like, well, there's no reason not to, and I have plenty of free time. And so I filed mine recently. And also, like, I marked myself as having lost my job due to COVID-19.
Mhm.
Um, because I didn't have a standard salary job, I don't know how all that's going to work out. But even with the stimulus check, it's like right now, I don't know what work is going to be on the other side of this. And so, like, right now, I'm in save mode, not spend mode. And so, yeah, and YouTube is really sucking right now. Like, my usual ad revenue is like half as much. And I don't really understand why. But that's why I can't depend on YouTube. But like right now, I'm really like, I can use that money. But that's the way it goes. YouTube is what it is. Sometimes.
Yeah, YouTube is trifling.
That's a good word for it. All right, so let's wrap this up with like 2 final questions for you. The first question is, if you had to give one tip to somebody who's considering doing van life in the future, not in the immediate future, because we know what the world is like right now, what kind of tip would you have for them?
This is actually a great time for people to get into van life because a lot of people are losing their jobs and stuff. So
Good point.
and it's not like van life is still not restricted, really. You just have, but it would be hard to start out right now because you don't have the luxuries you would to ease you in.
Yeah.
So you would have to be taking baths in there and stuff like that. But this is a cool time to van life. But yeah, but it's definitely a little bit more difficult because the little luxuries you would have are not available. But if I was to give advice, would be to don't buy ahead of time. See what you need first, because a lot of times we watch all these channels and we do things based on what people are doing, which is great because that's how you learn. You learn off of other people, and yeah, a lot of the things they're showing you are helpful. A lot of what they're doing are helpful, and I've done a lot of things like how other people have been doing, and it has helped me, and I've kept those same things. But at the same time, you can't do exactly how others are doing because you're not like them. Not everyone is living in the same state or the same municipality, so things are different. Cali van life is completely different from Florida van life or Jersey van life. So you really have to be aware of your direct surroundings or wherever you're going to be. And you have to be aware of whether you're going to be traveling or stationary urban van life, because there is a difference. And just be aware of your particular situation and go upon that. Because if you're going upon how other people are doing it, you don't know. Okay, people are making videos every day. You watch maybe like 10-minute videos, and that's all you see of their life. You don't really know what's going on. They could have a crap load of money and you don't know. So don't do what other people are doing. Do what fits you, because only you know your situation. And I would also say, what else? What you said, two pieces of advice.
Like as much advice. I said 2 more questions, but one of them, what would be your piece of advice?
And then my other advice would be, like Bob always says, you have to have a job. You cannot. Van life is not gonna fix your problems. You know what I mean? You cannot move into van life and think like, okay, I don't have to worry about making money anymore. If I'm a sad person, I'm not gonna be sad anymore. If I have domestic issues, that's not, no. It's still real life. You're still in this world, in this galaxy. Like, you're not going off.
You're still you in van life.
Yeah, you're still you. Everything that exists is still in existence. You're not going off to space or something into a different realm. So reality is still reality. So you still will face those same things. Now, van life might make things easier financially, emotionally, or in whatever other way, but you're still you. So don't think it's gonna fix your issues, because it's not. You still have to deal with yourself. So that's me. Because I feel like a lot of people feel like that, and then when they get into van life, they're like, oh, I'm still sad, or oh, I still have these issues I had, or oh, this is kind of hard. It is hard. Van life is hard. Van life is going back in time. And I know you see all these fancy gadgets that people have. It's almost like, it's weird because it's a contradiction. Because it's like you're going back in time, but then using a lot like forward technology, because it's like an inverter, things like that. Those are forward technologies.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
going back in time because it's like you're using modern technology to make things easier, even though that's the harder way of doing it.
Yeah,
Because it's like,
that is great.
why do you need to get a solar panel when we have electricity? Or it's like, why do you need to get inverters when we just have electricity available? But you don't have electricity available. So you have to do the things the harder way to get the simple luxuries. And
And
even then, it's not consistent.
you also have to think about how you use electricity and how and when you use water, which you don't think about as much in a house. Like even if you have this, again, even if you have the sink and the shower and all that, you have a limited amount of water. What is your situation? What's your access? How long is that water going to last you? You have electricity. Okay, how much electricity? Do you have one little power station? Do you have like a bunch of lithium batteries? Do you have one little AGM battery? You know, can you afford, because a lot of people, they're like, I'll have solar and do electric cooking, but like you don't realize how much electricity heat uses until you're in a van. And you're like,
it's like you're using all those super out there, modern technologies, but it's like it's still backwards because you're still limited.
yeah.
Yeah, you'll have like a pumping sink, but you're still limited in water.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's contradicting, but yeah, it's a learning curve, and you really have to be down. Like you will have to rearrange yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not like a down to earth, flexible kind of person. If you're not flexible, your life is just not gonna be for you. Unless you grew up in a shack with an outhouse already, so you're used to that. If you grew up in a shack in an outhouse and you're still currently living in a shack in an
You can go
outhouse,
right into it.
then you're gonna be good. Van life is gonna be luxury, but most people are not living that life, so it is gonna be a culture shock. It's gonna, but it's not. I mean, it's still better than most people how most people live today in other countries. So it's not that bad, but it's definitely a learning curve. So if you're flexible and you're persistent, you'll be good.
You have to want the benefits more than the
Oh
problems
yeah.
bother you, basically.
If you're getting into van life to have a YouTube channel or to live like the sprinter folks, I mean, I don't know, because there's people with sprinters who it's still not good enough for them because at the end of the day, it's a vehicle and you're still gonna have the same issues as someone in a car. So
Yeah, and there are people who wanted to start a YouTube channel, bought the fancy van and put it on a credit card or a payment they couldn't afford, never started the YouTube channel, spent a bunch of money on a van and equipment, and it's sitting in their yard, you know, and they're still working the job to pay off the big fancy van. And if you're committed to, hey, it's going to take me like I'm going to start van life in 5 years, great. But I think you just have to be like realistic about what it means.
you have to really want it. You have
Yeah.
to really want it. There's people who, I remember this lady when I first got into van life, she was building her van and she was always like, oh, I can't wait. And she had been building it for 7 years. And she started, I think after 5 months of me living in my van, she started traveling. And she was just doing so much. And because she took her time, she did her research, she was on all the Facebook groups. So by the time her van was ready, she had the knowledge. Her van was actually ready. She didn't rush into it. And, it was ready how she wanted it, how it made her feel comfortable. She had the knowledge and she was ready. And sometimes it's that. Like sometimes, I mean, rushing is not a bad, it's not a bad decision, but if you're someone who wants to live a particular lifestyle and you won't accept anything else, rushing might not work. For me, I rushed into it, but I don't mind adapting. So yeah, rushing for me meant first living in a Honda Civic and then living it in a rinky dinky like Dodge Caravan. I'm okay, but most people can't even do that. So if you want to rush, rushing is not going to get you into a Sprinter that's already built. That's just the truth. So you just you have to really want it. You have to know yourself, and you have to be willing to adapt.
Yeah.
Complete. If you are not like, that's the one takeout. If you are not willing to adapt, it is not gonna work. Period. No matter how nice your rig is, no.
Yeah. More than likely, you're still gonna have to poop in a bucket.
Yeah. And no matter what, you're gonna be doing something that you didn't do before.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure you didn't live in a van your whole life in
Yeah.
that specific van, in that, so even if it's nice or whatever, it's still gonna be something new. You're gonna have to learn, and so.
I mean, even if you
Yeah.
want to do the public land thing, that's its own education. I mean, that's still something I'm figuring out how public land works. Even if you want to do that lifestyle, that alone, like if you've never camped before, don't think you're just
And
gonna.
a lot of us haven't camped. Most
Yeah,
people living in life haven't camped.
yeah. So that's also going to be a learning experience. It looks pretty on the videos, like you just drive out and ooh, there's all this magical land you can
Huge
park on.
learning experience.
Yeah.
Like I
Um.
didn't even know about public BLM lands. I never knew anything about any of that.
Yeah.
As for a van, I've learned so much, and now that I know all this stuff, when I think that at one time in my life I didn't know, I'm like, oh, how the hell did you not know? But I really did. This was all maybe like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But now I feel like it's been years, but it's like the little things you don't know. You learn so much. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
There's so much out there in the world.
Mhm. All right. So the final question is, do you see yourself doing any sort of like van or vehicle dwelling in the future? And if so, in what way?
Oh yeah, I would. I would live in a van again, especially if like I had a sweet van. Oh yeah, I would totally do that. If I lived in a van, because if I was able to get a van, a really nice van, I would like move to like a really nice city. Like I'd probably move back up north, maybe live in Chicago or even live on the West Coast. Live places that I wanted to live but can't afford to, or
Yeah.
I'll travel more. So yeah. Um Now I don't know when, but I would definitely do it again, of course. Like I miss it. I miss it all the time. Right now with the crisis going on, I miss it a lot because I just right now I'm thinking about all the things I could have been doing, and moments like this make me realize like, wow, living in a van does save you a lot. It saves you a lot of money. It gives you a little bit of safety where it's like, okay, if you lose your job, it's not that bad because it's not like, okay, I just lost my job. I have all these bills. If I don't pay those bills, I'm on the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a little bit of that safety. If your car's paid off, it gives you a little bit of that safety. So I think about that. I definitely would live in a van again, but I would want to live in a nicer van than I had, of course. And right now I can't afford that.
Yeah.
I get
I'm in the
alone.
same space, but still in my minivan where I'm like, I'm ready for an upgrade, but realistically, the money's not there right now.
Yeah, because if I was to live in a van, I would want it to be a more long term thing. And to me, minivan, because a minivan is like what you start out with to learn the ropes. So when I originally got into the minivan, it was like, okay, me trying this, getting to learn it. But now that I know I like it, I know if I would move back into it, I know it'd be more long term. So to me, long term will be more of like a better rig. So
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
it wouldn't be so temporary again.
Yeah.
But of course, oh yeah, I miss it. I miss the freedom. The freedom, especially in a place like Florida or California. So much. I mean, living in a van, you get such a better lifestyle.
Yeah. I
It's
remember
awesome.
having 2 days off and I was just like, there's a beach area that's in a little suburban area that I know I can park on the street. And I like stayed by the beach for 2 days. Because I had assessed the area, I knew where I could park, and I got up in the morning and I like walked on the beach every morning. And it's like at my income level, I could never do that living in an
Oh,
apartment. And so those moments are really beautiful. And yeah, honestly, most of the time I'm on street corners, I'm in a parking lot somewhere, like it's not beautiful, but when I can choose for it to be beautiful, like those moments are just so powerful. Even the time
it's
I drove
so
to Canada,
awesome.
I had a day off and drove to Canada. You
You,
don't do that in the house.
you probably would not otherwise have gotten to do.
Yeah.
You know, like if I didn't do van life, when would I have had an opportunity to drive into Canada?
Yeah.
Less likely. It's very, there's a very little possibility that I would have probably been able to do that. I mean, just sleeping on the beach, you know, staying at the beach for weeks, traveling. I mean, I've been to Texas,
Yeah.
Michigan, so many places. It allows you to, you kind of feel privileged in a way. It's like, wow, it just opens your eyes to so many things. And it's like, I'm so thankful because I'm like, it kind of makes me angry because I'm like, oh my God, I would have never experienced this. And it's like, these are things that I feel like everybody should have a chance, an equal chance at experiencing. But
Yeah.
the truth, we don't.
Yeah.
Because, hey, not everyone can be rich, not everyone can be privileged. But I'm just so happy I got a taste of that. And,
Yeah.
no matter what, I'm like, I'm grateful I did that. So, yeah, I'm very grateful to that. And I would love to do van life again. I miss it all the time. Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to wrap it up. On the positive, I want to say I appreciated your channel so much. You were somebody I found early into van life, and not only were you in a minivan at the time that I was, making that transition, you were also like mixing travel and also day-to-day van living. And that was something I really, really appreciated about your channel. I hope you continue to update us on what's going on with you. I always like when a random video pops up from you. Your channel existed before you were traveling. And so that's sort of a strength of your channel, is it never depended on being a travel channel. It was always very flexible to whatever you wanted to make it into in whatever stage of life you were.
I'm all over the place. I don't plan my channel clearly. I just like, if I feel like it, I'll video. So that's why sometimes it's out if I have time. I've been trying to make some videos while I'm working from home, but it's like, I'm the kind of person, if I don't feel it, I'll record it. But if I'm not feeling it, I'll delete it. So that's my issue. Where like, I try to record for you guys, but if I'm not feeling it, I just won't post it up. But video's coming, so good job, guys.
All right. Thank you so much for being on with me. Bye-bye.